Iko vipi?
Iko fit.
Iko fit Basi itakuwa fresh, haina neno. Tuombe Mungu tujalie ende fresh tu.
Sawa.
Ilikuwa nataka watu wakianza kuingia vile wawe waona ile page ya presentation ile.
Page presentation
wajue kwa right place.
Nikuuliza password ulivyo nini?
Haya, sema wait, so nani will let you, meeting host will let you in.
So haijauliza password.
So
I was worried to uliza password.
Kwa hiyo na presentation si fresh.
Copy presentation, your viewing Abdulqadir screen. Naona profile yangu mbona?
Hata mimi naona profile yako.
Oh, iko chini na nishakuja sasa. Nishakuja iko sawa.
Okay. Sasa watu wakianza kuingia waone hii presentation. Wajue kumbe tume in right place. Sasa wewe ndio utawa welcome, utafanya wewe waweza kuzungumza hata kama iko hivi mimi ndio host.
Yeah, I can. Bado nizozungumza.
Basi tutawazungumza wa welcome nini waelezee. Basi kwanza wa pass over, mimi naanza kusema. It should take half an hour au labda 40 minutes hivi. Na umefikiria ile presentation, some things itakuwa explain, nyingine wa hop over. Idea ni watu wapate picture ile zile problems na issues ambazo ziko katika safety data sheets. Ushaona?
Ndio.
Kama hapa angalia hii kwenye hapa ukiandika safety data sheet ukaandika hivi warudishiwa mwenyewe ambao utasemaje? Sema hapa the information contained here is based on our current knowledge of the underlying data and blah blah blah. So no warranty or guarantee is expressed or implied regarding the accuracy of this data or the results to be obtained. Ukisema hivyo, no warranty or guarantee is expressed, implied regarding the accuracy of the data. Maanisha hiyo safety data information sheet iko based on data ambayo haina guarantee. Ikiwa yule employer hawezi, yule supplier hawezi ku guarantee, even who can guarantee it?
Ndio. Ndio.
That's while we are at it, we ngoja angalia kama watu wanza kujoin, acha mimi nende chooni mara moja.
So
Nisieka shikoni tumbo la kuona kwa katikati ya meeting. One of participants.
Huh?
One of participants.
Naona naoja hakuna lojoin bado.
Watu wengine wauliza, nawekea link ile wa join direct, wauliza link creation report. Inamisha wekea link ile, wakiclick for link to direct. Gladys sasa hivi.
Ni mu admit sio?
Wewe admit tu, check it, asikia vizuri nini.
Basi mazungumzo yetu yatakwisha sasa.
Muadmit tu, jamaa, kama kuna lolote nitapigia simu.
Hello? Hello, everyone. Kindly, if you can hear me or if you can't hear me, you can indicate in the chat. So I'll take that as a go for it. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okanga. So my name is Imran Abdallah, part of the OSH PRO team. I would like to thank all of you for being here with us. We are fully aware that you would rather spend this time having come back from work with your family. And for that, we appreciate you and say thank you very much. As you're all aware, as humanity, we are facing a very big challenge, and it has inconvenienced most of everything that we had planned. And OSH PRO are no exception to this rule. In fact, we had planned to hold 2 events this year. One of them was supposed to be held in May, which is our annual workshop in conjunction with JQuat. But unfortunately, because of the travel sanctions that were imposed on us by the government and by the different governments of the speakers who usually grace these occasions, we were forced to abandon that particular event. Unfortunately, with the situation as it currently stands, our annual conference, which we usually hold in November, is at the moment also a big doubt. So we are still holding out hope for that one. But thanks to the marvels of technology, there's no limit, not even distance, social distance or otherwise, can stop us from sharing knowledge, which is why we sat down and we decided that we can have this webinar series. So we are planning to hold as many of these as we can, because we believe in the whole idea of sharing. And so, I think without further ado, I will now prompt Abdulqadir to see if he is ready to present, and I think he can take over from here.
Okay, thank you, Imran, very, very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here with us at this time of the day where you need to relax a little bit, as Imran said. But what we are going to talk about is just as interesting as sitting in front of TV updating on the daily happening. So we are glad that you've taken time to be here with us, and we'll go through this first of the series of webinars. Plan, as Imran mentioned, is to have several of these webinars. We are going to put up a list of the dates and the topics which are coming. So probably we'll make this bi-weekly, but we'll put up the program, and we'll let you know when the next webinar will be held, and we'll let you know also about the topic in advance. the plan is to go through the whole presentation, and then we take questions at the end. So if you have some questions, you can please note them down, and then hopefully we'll have at the end some times to answer the questions. I work with Norwegian Labour Inspection Authority, and my work goes very much in market surveillance of chemicals. So the issues of information in safety data sheets is my daily bread. I work with safety data sheets on a daily basis, and at the same time, I'm part of the OSH PRO services team. I work mostly with international support and support in the events. So the topic, as mentioned, is maybe in the invitation the topic is slightly different, but the goal is that we're going to talk about the information in the safety data sheets you received, if this information is at all useful and it supports handling of chemicals. Okay, we'll start with that, and the content of the presentation is, as you see it, just mention very briefly about the regulation, where this is mentioned in the regulation, and then we'll look at the content and the structure also very briefly, although there's quite a lot of information on the slide of the content and structure, but the idea is just to give a picture of what the structure is, and then we'll look at the utility of the information. How useful is the information which you get in the safety data sheet? I'm not going to discuss each and every section of safety data sheet because that will take a long time. We in the Labour Inspection Authority, we've had seminars which goes over days just to discuss on communication or on chemicals. So I won't do that, but I'll just, as you see, the hooks is just to have some things to put on the issues where you can start thinking of the information in the safety data sheets, how useful, what can you do with it, can you use it at all? We'll see. So we'll go through some safety data sheets. We'll look at some concrete safety data sheets from different suppliers of chemicals, and then we'll see if this is an isolated problem. Is this a problem just for few companies in Kenya, or is this a problem, a worldwide problem? We'll look at that at the end and then make a summary and conclusion. And as I mentioned, then we'll have a round with a question and answers right at the end. So we start with the regulation. The regulation, you know about this, or most of you know about this. This is the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2007, which is the regulation which is used for workplaces and occupational safety and health. And we know it's an act of parliament, so the requirements in this regulation are supposed to be fulfilled. There should be no discussions or negotiation on the extent to how this should be filled. It is expected that this have to be filled, so they have to be done. And in paragraph 84, it's specifically mentioning about material safety data sheets. I may switch from material safety data sheets and safety data sheets. We mean the same thing in this context. So if I just say safety data sheets or I say material safety data sheet, I'm talking about the same thing. So in paragraph 84, it says that every manufacturer, importer, supplier, or distributor of chemicals should make available to employers material safety data sheets for chemical and other hazardous substances. This is clear. Then these safety data sheets will contain detailed, this is the important part now, to contain detailed essential information regarding the identity, supplier, classification of hazards, safety precautions, and emergency procedures, so that those who are receiving the safety data sheets can actually use the information. So what the first question which I'll bring is, what is a chemical? Because it's talking about distributors and suppliers of chemicals. So what's a chemical? This is a good answer to a good question for us to tackle, because many will think of chemicals as some substances in funny looking and strange looking bottles, or yeah, very strange, odd-looking bottles and other containers on shelves of some shady laboratory somewhere. But actually, chemicals are much more than just what you see in the laboratories. Actually, according to United Nations classification regulations, we can list so many chemicals in different products types. And here we are talking about products which are mixtures of different substances. So the substances are not listed here, but like substances, I mean like solvents, like acids, these are pure substances. But what you have as products are mixtures of different substances. So you can see how many products we have, at least 40 different categories of products. Some things which we will not normally consider as chemicals, like if you look at the product category number 28, on which is perfumes and fragrances. Maybe this is not what we look at. This is not what we think of. No, we're talking about chemicals or fuels. On number 13, fertilizers. Maybe this is it's not the type of the things we are talking about when we are thinking when we're talking about chemicals. But all these are classified as product categories, and they are chemicals. So for all these, according to the regulation, the OSH Act regulation, suppliers of all these products here are supposed to provide safety data sheets. So we should have more safety data sheets than maybe we actually have in different workplaces. So all these have to be supplied with safety data sheets. So I'll not take a lot of time on that. But I want to talk about content and structure of safety data sheets also as entry way into this discussion. So you see on the left side, we have a safety data sheet according to the factories and other places of work hazardous substances rules, schedule number 3, where it's listed what should be taken in the safety data sheets. That's what is listed. You have 13 items there. And then on the right-hand side, the one in green, it's safety data sheets according to the United Nations Global Harmonized System of Classification Labeling, where they also have a guidance on safety data sheets. On this UNGHS requirements, there are 16 elements. 3 elements, ecological information, transport information, and regulatory information is not there in the version which is from the factory and other places of work for hazardous substances. And when you're looking at the safety data sheets which are available in the market in Kenya, you find both. You find those which are based on the factory. You find those which are based on factory acts, and you find those which are based on the United Nations Global Harmonized System. So legally, I guess both are acceptable, but the one on factory act has less information than the one from United Nations requirements. And then in the guidelines of the United Nations requirements, they go even further to put this in subsections, and it's given detailed information of what should be given in each and every subsection. So this, I'll not go through this, but this was just to show you. I'll put the link where you can get the document, where you can see exactly what is written under each and every subsection, what type of information is required, and what information is enough to say that this safety data sheets fulfill all the regulatory requirements. So if for those who are interested, they can look at, they can follow the link. These presentations will be made available afterwards, and then you can have access to these links. Then, so who is the safety data sheet meant for? This is yeah, important, because if somebody is to read the safety data sheet, then it should be made for them. So according to the requirement of the regulation is that suppliers and manufacturers, suppliers and importance of the chemicals should make available to the employer. So it's the employer who is to receive these safety data sheets, and then the employer should make them available through training to the workers. The workers should be able to get some training and an understanding of the safety data sheet. But when you look generally on the safety data sheets which are available on the market, this is what you see. You see there are safety data sheets which are for some chemicals which are coming from China. And you see this first box where it's written even in Chinese, Agroshine Hangshu. These are safety data sheets of agricultural chemicals like fertilizers and pesticides which come from China. So they send with these safety data sheets. And then you have others which are coming from other countries like in Germany, and those which have which are produced in Kenya, which are locally produced. Then you'll have them with the information, contact information. So if you receive this safety data sheets, or if an employer receive any of these three, these are just examples, but many are in the same way. So if you receive this safety data sheet as an employer, you are not motivated to look any further. Maybe the one which is from the local company, because then it has you see that it has information for Kenya. The company is here in Mombasa or where, and you can call them, you can talk to them. But when you see the one on the left, the safety data sheet is from China. You don't have any connection with it. You don't feel that this is something which is meant for me. So the Chinese just sent the safety data sheet without, and the Kenyan company which imports this chemical, whoever that may be, they don't do anything, but they just take the Chinese prepared safety data sheet and send it to whoever they're supposed to send it, which doesn't give that feeling of ownership of the safety data sheets when you have such. Here is an example of a web page. If you look at the part with the red, sorry, the part on top here with the eclipse in red, it's a Kenyan company which supplies pesticides and fertilizers. But on their web page, if you go to this web page, Green Life Africa, they have about 50 safety data sheets. And each and every one of them, it's either from China or from some other place. Most of them are from China. I opened some of them just to check, and they are exactly as mentioned here in this first. So for the Kenyan farmer who is to use this safety data sheets, they'll download it and look at it, say, oh, this is not meant for me. This is for somebody else. So this is one big problem. Then let's look at the utility. Let's go in some sections of the safety data sheet and look what type of information is given there. So if you look at this page, you'll find in the safety data sheets, in the first paragraph or first section, there's supposed to be given information on emergency telephone number. But if you look at this safety data sheets which are available, you'll find that the number which is given is from the country of origin of the product, be it a fertilizer or pesticide or whatever product it is. You find that the telephone number are given for that original country. Like what you see here, these are four different safety data sheets. This one is the one from the local company. You see there are local numbers, the one at the bottom. But the other ones, the other three, you have information, telephone number, emergency information number for Germany or for South Africa, for China. So think of that worker or employer who has received this safety data sheet and something happens, an emergency happens, and he wants information, he wants help from those who know about the chemical best, goes to the safety data sheets to get the information on who to call. He gets a Chinese number or a South African number or a German number. It's not even sure if you call that number, you'll get somebody who speaks English. So not sure if you get any information. So these numbers are completely useless. And I say the word useless, and I mean it that these numbers are completely useless. We are in Kenya is in different time zone with China or Germany. These numbers are not for 24 hours, and you are not sure if the person will be speaking the language, English or any other language you may understand. So what's the point of such emergency numbers? These are issues in safety data sheets that somebody has to look into. We'll go to another section, which is a section on hazard identification. And this is one of the locally produced safety data sheets with there's 13 sections instead of 16 sections. And under hazard identification, first, I want to bring your attention to the first element given under hazard identification, which is appearance and order. This gives no value completely. Smooth, semi-solid, grease, flax colored with hydrocarbon odor. What does that mean? What hazard does that identify? It doesn't identify any hazard. What is required in this section with hazard identification? One is supposed to give which classification this product has. Is it carcinogen? Is it corrosive? Is it eye irritant? What does it mean? And then comes the information on then comes then the information of route of exposure. And it says exposure will most likely occur through skin contact. What does that mean? So does it happen or does it not happen? What is most likely? This is it's a very generic information that somebody is trying to avoid to give to classify this product and say if it is hazardous or not. Maybe slightly irritating to the eyes. So what does that mean? Does that mean we have to put on goggles, or we can survive without goggles? So we want information in the safety data sheet that is useful. But when you have such information, which is it's not clear, it's not certain what the person who prepared the safety data sheets is trying to tell us. So how can we use that information? Because we are supposed to use that information to train the workers on how to handle the chemicals. So with such uncertainties, how does the employer know what to do? The employer needs to get clear information on the hazards involved and then get advice on what to do about that. Let's look at another. This is in the same safety data sheet now. This the first one is section 13, and now this is 16, where you're supposed to give other information, whatever other information you may have, you can give in, because every section is given concrete information, what you're supposed to give concrete in each section. And then you might have some extra information that doesn't fit in any of the paragraphs, then you can put it in other information. So here it's put other information, and they write very well that the content in this MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet, are in full fulfillment of requirements of the Factory AU Act. This first is a contradiction, but it doesn't matter because this is not it's not a serious issue. As I mentioned, the Factory Act has only 13 items, but they use the Factory Act and they use the United Nations GHS model. It's fine, whichever way it goes. But look at what they've written in this paragraph. They have a disclaimer. It's okay, you can have a disclaimer in the safety data sheet, but what type of disclaimer can you have in a safety data sheet? In this case, the disclaimer is, if you look at what they have here, they say no warranty or guarantee is expressed or implied regarding accuracy of this data. So what the supplier of this chemical, of this product, is telling the employer, what he is telling the safety officer, what he is telling the worker is that, please don't hold me accountable for the information in this safety data sheet. I cannot tell you 100% that this information is correct. How useful can that information then be? If the person who is supposed to know the most about the product he is putting on the market, he is the one who's supposed to give the information that the employer and the worker should use, is saying that, sorry, I cannot guarantee that what I express or imply in this safety data sheet is accurate. What is he telling us? Should we throw away the safety data sheet? Because as long as he cannot take responsibility for that, we cannot say that the information is correct. It's probably wrong. And as we mentioned already in the previous, you see, the formulation is so general that somebody is running away from responsibility. Yeah, maybe slightly irritating to the eye. So what are you saying? Then come to the disclaimer and say, no, sorry, no guarantee of if this information is correct. So you make your own judgment of what you want to do. This is what the supplier is saying. So let's go further. We're still looking at the utility. Here is another type of another safety data sheet from a local supplier, and this is it's very interesting to look at, because he's put the composition and mentioned we have acid and the amount 5 to 20%, solvents 20 to 50%. There are different solvents. Water, copper carbonate. One thing that you can see in this safety data sheet is they've put the chemical family, what is used to, et shunt. This means to corrode, to something which has to be cleaned by using corrosive. That's why they have so much acid. And if for this product to be able to do this function, you cannot have an acid which is a weak acid. You need a strong acid. So this, they said acid without saying what type of acid, but I will guess from the use which is meant for this product, the acid must be a mineral acid. It's a phosphoric acid or hydrochloric acid, something like that, sulfuric acid, because you cannot have acid like citric acid, which is not harmful at all. You can put it in your mouth. It's just like eating a lemon. that's or acetic acid, which you find in vinegar. You cannot use such acid if you're talking about cleaning work and enchants. It has to be strong acid. So it doesn't say which acid, but from the use you can deduce that it's a strong acid. It doesn't say which solvent. Solvents have different characters. And then say here, this product is flammable. Because of the solvents, it's saying the product is flammable. But does this make any sense to you? Now listen to this. The largest component in this product, according to what is given here, it's water. If you take the lower ranges, water is still the most component, and if you take the higher ranges, water is still the most component in this product. So this is basically a product which has more than 50% water, because when they give a range 40 to 50 can be 40 to 60 can be anything. So let's say this is it's 50% water, or let's say this is 40% water. For a product, for something to be flammable, for a chemical to be flammable, it has to sustain its own flammability. But when you have a product which is more than 50% water, this cannot. This is very difficult for the product to sustain flammability. So, on this product to be flammable, it's questionable. You can think about it, but it doesn't make much sense. And then we have solvents. Which solvents are we talking about? Some solvents like benzene, they are carcinogens, or toluene, or acetonitrile. These are carcinogens. So without saying which solvent we have here, there's a very big difference in classification of the product when you have benzene or toluene, and if we have pentane, or methanol or ethanol. All these are solvents. So there'll be very much big difference. So a lot of information is needed to be more clear what solvent is. But then if you read in this hazard identification, they say vapors may cause drowsiness and dizziness. This is a common property of a safety data sheet of solvents, organic solvents. They have this effect. So it doesn't say, still it doesn't tell us which solvent we're talking about. And then say it's harmful or fatal if swallowed. So it must be something which is toxic, may cause lung damage and eye, skin, and respiratory tract irritation. So this affects organs. But you don't find any of this information more than in the safety data sheets, more than what is given here. And then say repeated contact may cause an allergic reaction. So if we are to put labels, the global harmonized system of classification, if we were to put labels on these products, we have something like this if we are to put labels, because there are no labels, there are no pictograms in the safety data sheets. But if we were to put, we now as experts, if we were to put pictograms for these safety data sheets, according to what is written here, we'll have the toxic, we'll have corrosive because of the acid, we'll have the organs effect, we have skin irritation and eye irritation and allergic reaction, and we'll have flammability, which I think is should not be there. But let's give it to them. So we have such a product with so many classification and so dangerous effects. This is not a product you want to have in your workplace. But if you happen to have it in your workplace, and there isn't much you can do about it, you cannot substitute it, you have to use it, then you have to use it you have to have information that tells you how to handle it. So come to handling, they have, okay, how to store it, the temperatures in which you should store it. But look at handling. Vapor may collect on low areas. Okay, this tell us how we should build our ventilation system. And then avoid static generation when pouring the liquid. you want to avoid that since there are vapors. Avoid breathing vapors. We want to avoid that. But how do we do that? How do we avoid breathing the vapors? Do we just turn around our face when we're pouring? We want more information on how to avoid breathing the vapors. Do not weld or flame, because if it's flammable, then it will explode. Wash hands before eating. This is hygienic measurement? Does it prevent us from being exposed to the chemical? But okay, let's come to this other point: physical properties. They said it's a clear blue liquid, boiling point about 15 degrees, and has specific gravity 1 to 1.05, and it's acrid, so it's pungent. You don't want to smell it. It's a bad smell. It's pungent smell. It's irritating to the respiratory system. It can give damage to the lungs. You want to avoid that. But how do you avoid that? Here they should have said you should use, if there is need for use of mask, and mask with which type of filter for solvents, filter for other substances. They should be specified. That will be the information we want, but it's not given. But then look at the specific gravity. They say it's 1 to 1.05. So the vapors which will come from this product are more or less same density as air. That's why they have specific gravity at 1. If it was a little bit more or less, then it means it's not the same as air. But this is it has density more like air. But earlier here they mentioned that the vapors may collect on low areas. No, they won't. They will spread in the room because they have same density as air. So you can't expect them, if they have same density like air, you can't expect them to flow down to the lower areas. They will spread in the room. So this information here in 7 and 8, it's actually contradicting. So what should we follow? For those who know how to calculate specific gravity, it's just the ratio of density of one product to the other. So if you take the density of this product and density of air, you get 1 or 1 point. They have same density. If they have same density, you don't expect, you expect the damp to collect in the lower areas if it's heavier than air, but it's not. So it will spread in the room. So whoever made these safety data sheets didn't know what he or she was talking about, or what he or she was doing. And then they are required, since we have solvents here. How many we don't know, but the solvents which are here, if they have occupational exposure limit values, we expect to have that information, because we can use that information for monitoring exposures. No, we don't have that information. How can we monitor exposures? Are we just going to get the smell and say, okay, we have a higher concentration or low concentration? We need the exposure limit values so that one can see if the exposure is within the acceptable limit value. So this safety data sheet, although it has a lot of information, and all the 16 or 13 sections are filled in with information, but this information is not helping whoever is going to use this. But many people will not know the details or intricacies of such information, and they will accept it and they will use it, and at the same time they are using wrong information, which doesn't help them, which just doesn't protect them. Look at here, it says stored separate from oxidizing materials, alkalis, and acids. Why would you store this away from acid when it has acid? It's acidic itself. It doesn't make sense. So these are issues with the safety data sheets, showing that the people who are making these safety data sheets are actually not aware of what they are talking about. So this makes it very difficult for the person who is going to use this safety data sheet to do a risk assessment. Actually, they will do risk assessment based on information that is misleading, based on information that is wrong based on information that will give measures that do not protect the workers. Okay, we go further. Here is another safety data sheet, which is based. It's an international company, one of the biggest fertilizer international company in the world, and it has a branch in Kenya. So the person who is in charge of making this safety data sheet is in Kenya, and I think maybe they have maybe some kind of control from the head office, because they are using the GHS system. So this is a more of an international safety data sheet which they are having. So you can see that they have the warning, the pictograms and the warnings and the precautionary measures. This seems quite okay when you look in the beginning of the safety data sheets, the early pages of the safety data sheet. Go further into the safety data sheet, you'll find out that actually everything is not as it seems. Because this is a liquid fertilizer. This product I'm talking about now is a liquid fertilizer, which is most likely used outdoors or maybe in greenhouses. But I will assume it's mostly used outdoors. It's not mentioned anywhere in the safety data sheet where this is used. But let's say this is something which you use outdoors or in greenhouses because it's a fertilizer. And so, assuming that, what use do, or how do we come about having local exhaust ventilation? It says here, local exhaust ventilation or engineering controls to keep workers' exposure to airborne contaminants. When we're talking about outside, we are spraying, this is a liquid fertilizer. It's used outside. How can you talk about local exhaust ventilations? What you're supposed to talk about is probably how workers will protect themselves from exposure. But local exhaust ventilation or other engineering controls, when you are applying a fertilizer outside, it's not applicable. There's no way you can have a local exhaust ventilation when you're applying fertilizer. If it's sprayed mechanically, then you can have some kind of a cover over the source. That is possible. But talking about local exhaust ventilation, when you're talking about fertilizer that is applied outside, it doesn't make sense. Then in the same talk about the skin protection, and they said you should use chemical resistant impervious gloves complying with approved standard. Should be worn at all times. That is very good, and they've given an indication of that you need to have chemical impervious gloves. Then they go on and say for general applications, we recommend gloves with thickness typically greater than 0.35 milliliters. So any glove with the thickness above what is given here, according to this statement, should be fine. And then they go further and destroy everything they've built. It should be emphasized that glove thickness is not necessarily a good predictor of glove resistance to a specific chemical. So why did you tell us to use a glove of thickness more than 0.335 if it's the material which is important? Why didn't they say use this material, use butyl glove, use nitrile gloves, don't use polyvinyl alcohol gloves? They talk about thickness and then they totally kill it by saying that what is important when it comes to resistance of gloves is to the specific chemicals, to the permeation, is the content of the glove material. It's the glove so the glove material would have been much better a proposal for using gloves instead of giving the thickness, which they themselves say this is not necessarily the best solution. We continue in the same safety data sheets. We come to the physical and chemical properties in section 9. In the Factory Act, it's section 8. We saw they only give three. Here, they are at least listed some of the physical and chemical properties which are of importance. But why are they not determined? Most of these are physical. These physical properties are measurable in a laboratory. In 1, 2, 3, it's very simple. I've worked in a laboratory before, and I was measuring some of these. So these are, you just have the right instrument to take your sample to the laboratory. They do it in 10 minutes to get your answer. So why are they not determined? Are they not important? Isn't this what the information we want the person who is using it for risk assessment to use? This is what we want them to use. But when we say everything is not determined, so isn't this information necessary, or why isn't it determined? So how should we handle these issues? We go further. As I said, if you have, for those who joined late, if you have some questions, we will take questions at the end, so you can note down, and then we'll try to see if we can answer, we can take these questions. So stability and reactivity. This is in section 10 in the safety data sheet, and now we are talking about the same safety data sheet for the fertilizer, where they've given that there's no specific test data related to reactivity. Okay, we accept that. It's no problem. It's a stable product, no problem. That's very fine with us. Under normal condition of storage, there are no hazardous reaction. Thank you. And avoid contamination by source. And then they come to incompatible materials. And now they talk about urea. Urea with calcium hypochlorite and sodium hypochlorite forms explosive nitrogen chlorides. But where does this urea comes from? Is it part of the product? Is it why suddenly urea is mentioned here? So we go back to the safety data sheet and we go to section number 3, where the products are supposed to be listed. The component of the product are supposed to be listed. And what we see when we go there, we see that there are, what is listed as components is zinc oxide and ethandiol. It's fine, and this is acceptable, that you can list what is important for the classification, and you don't have to give all the information. But when you say there's urea, which can give explosive nitrogen chloride, this is an important information which should be there. But this is not given anywhere. And they say very clearly here that there are no additional ingredients present which within the current knowledge of supplier in the concentration applicable are classified as hazardous. But we have urea. Where did this come from? Why was it put here? Maybe somebody who is not familiar with organic chemistry will say that, oh, maybe ethandiol is what they mean as urea. No, these are two different compounds. Urea has this formula, and ethandiol, it has this formula. So ethandiol is a solvent. It's one of the solvents. So they've given ethandiol as a solvent here, and then the zinc oxide as a component. But this product also contained urea, but it was not mentioned anywhere until when you come to this section where suddenly urea comes up. This makes it much difficult for somebody to know, how should I trust this information? Is this information reliable? Is this information I can use in my work in risk assessment? As I mentioned, for those maybe who are not familiar, with the content of safety data sheets and they receive such a safety data sheet, they will think, oh, this is fine, this is good, it is usable, it's a big international company, and why should they give us information which is not correct? But most of the information in the safety data sheets actually is not correct, and it's very difficult to work with such safety data sheets because you don't know what is written is correct or not. And to make it worse, there's no system of controlling of quality or control of the safety data sheets in Kenya that I know of. Although this is a requirement that supplier has to supply, but there is no systematic way of analyzing if what is given there is correct. So I will leave it up to you to think and decide if you really think the safety data sheets you get are useful at all. As I mentioned earlier, I will not go to every safety data sheet. There are very many, but I want to point to you to this study which I did with one Norwegian lady, Christian Svensson. She's a professor of work environment, and we did this study with safety data sheets in Norway. Now think of this, that Norway is one of the countries where there is a very, very, very strict regulation of the information in safety data sheets. So we did this study about 5 years ago, and we looked at specifically cleaning products, and we chose cleaning products which we thought were not very harmful out from the content of safety data sheets. And then we analyzed the safety data sheet in details. We started with 650 safety data sheets for cleaning products, different products from different suppliers, from within Norway and from without. And we had some selection criteria, and we end up with about 320, which fulfill the selection criteria. For those who are interested, to have a look at the study, the link to the article is provided, and when you get the presentation, you can look at it. So in the study of the 320 safety data sheets, we had this is just a summary of the findings. First, it's expected that for the user, the use of the products has to be given. So for here, we're talking about cleaning products. So it has to be mentioned if this cleaning product is for cleaning the floor, or it's a cleaning for toilets, or cleaning in the kitchen, because this will have different requirements. So in 89% or almost 90%, no, the use was very generic cleaning product that was given as the use. And then there was no advice on what was not supposed to be used on. And this is one of the elements which is required to be given, that you should say you can use this on this way, but you cannot use it on this way. So 100% of the safety data sheets didn't have that information. Then classification or underestimation of hazard, as we've just mentioned, products which, according to the information which was given, are supposed to be classified as carcinogenic were not classified as carcinogenic. Constituent elements in 100% of the safety data sheets, maybe only 1 or 2, as we've seen was the case here, and this will not add up to 100. So there were other components which are given, and one could never tell if at all this was used or not. So no components are given. You don't know what is it's available in the safety data sheets. You don't know. You just assume that maybe the rest is water, or the rest is some other solvent which you don't know about. And then first aid measures. No symptoms are mentioned, although this is required. Symptomatic treatment. What they've written in is that it should be symptomatic treatment for those who are exposed. But what does symptomatic treatment means? Does it mean that if somebody comes to you and he said, I've been exposed to some chemicals and I have a headache, you just give them some Paracet? Because that's symptomatic behandling. The symptomatic treatment, you treat what you see, what symptom one has. So somebody says, oh, I have a headache, you give them Paracet and then tell them go home and relax and come tomorrow. Exposure control measures are missing in 93% of the safety data sheet. 3 out of 320 safety data sheets, 93% had the missing information or contrasting or even contradicting information on exposure control measures. PPEs were insufficiently described. They just say generally use gloves or use mask. As we mentioned, when you talk about using gloves, what type of gloves do you have in mind? Should I just pick any type of gloves? So in 100% of the safety data sheets, this was not mentioned. Relevant properties were missing, relevant information is missing. So all in all, the law requires that a supplier of chemicals provide safety data sheets. And safety data sheets can be compiled according to the global system or to the local system. Important thing is that they are compiled and they are correct. But unfortunately, many safety data sheets supplied to users in Kenya are not prepared with Kenyan users in mind. They are prepared somewhere else and then they're just dumped to Kenya, and then they are used as they are. Nobody controls them, nobody checks. And generally, there are a number of shortcomings in the information of in their safety data sheets for many chemicals. I can challenge anybody who can tell me that they've read a safety data sheet and not found a single error in there. So there are problems, but what is done to solve this problem is more important, and this maybe is not what is not happening. So to conclude, there's again in the OSHA Act in 84.3, it says every employer should ensure the availability of at the workplace of material safety data sheets for all chemicals and other hazardous substances in use at the premises of the employer, containing detailed essential information regarding the identity, supplies, classification of hazard, safety precautions, and emergency procedures. But what we've seen that the information is given there. But what that information is given, to what purpose? Is it to the purpose which is intended, or is it given to the purpose just of fulfilling the requirement of preparing a safety data sheets? So the information should be correct. That's the first thing. It should be correct in accordance with the acceptable quality standards. The information should be practical. It should be targeted for that substance and for the use. It should be appropriate for the hazards which are involved. And the information should contribute to the safe intended use of the chemical. But what we've seen in the few safety data sheets I've looked at or I've mentioned here, it's not. And then there should be a systematic regulatory control and enforcement of quality information of safety data sheet, which is something which is missing. And I don't know what we can do to get this moving. So that's what I had for you. Thank you for for listening. Thank you for taking part. So if you have any questions, I think our host is around. You can see if we have time, and if there are any questions which we can answer. You can put the questions in the chat. I'm looking if there are any questions which are put there. Does it mean to critique or understand it? Yes, there's a question here which says, does it mean we need to critique SDS ought to understand it. You need to critique it very much before you understand the information which is given there. As I said, the information has to be correct. So when you receive a safety data sheet, you should not take it as written in stone, or you should not take it as a religious script that cannot be changed or cannot have errors. Safety data sheets have a lot of errors, many errors, and they are almost. I say they're almost useless. Most of them, very few which you can use. They have a few issues, but majority are useless. So you should critique them. And then when you go into dialogue with the suppliers and you make them understand, maybe some don't even understand themselves because they just write and sell it. So when they understand and you demand that the information should be correct and you get the correct information, then you should read and understand it. But it is important to criticize and look at and scrutinize very much. It makes it difficult when the SDS has info we can't trust. What if it's about storage of the chemical and not just application? The same with storage also. Some chemicals have to be stored under specific conditions. If you have ethanol, for example, or substances which products which contain ethanol, you may need to put this under to store this under fire safe cupboards. You need to have some kind of ventilation. But if this information is not provided in the safety data sheet, and not everybody knows what are the conditions for storage of different chemicals, then your safety data sheet is still useless for you. Another question, is it only me who is not hearing clearly? I hope you were hearing or you managed to fix that problem. Kindly let me know if anyone wishes to ask a question so I can unmute. You can do that, Mr. Host. If somebody wants to ask a question, you can unmute them. But I'm reading the questions which are in the chat. As a safety practitioner, we are at times limited as we receive what other departments have received. How do we create a culture of SDS analysis before procurement? It's a good question, and I will answer in this way. What you need to do, because the supplier is supposed to give you the safety data sheet, which you can use as a safety practitioner. So what you can do, you can start with putting demands to the supplier. You put the demands to the supplier that we will buy chemicals from you if you supply us with information that is satisfactory to us. You can ask for them to send you the safety data sheets in advance so that you can look at it and then point out what you think is not correct. So the important thing is to put those who have responsibility to compile safety data sheets to do their work properly, because you as a user, you are supposed to get this information. So to create this culture, you need to have an understanding within in-house, to have an understanding of what is good safety data sheets and what is a poor quality safety data sheet. And once you have that, then you can put demands. So if you get your products from another department, the procurement department, we just you say, I want this chemical, they buy it for you and send it to you without anything. Then you should have in your order to that department that we need this information beforehand, so that we can have a kind of a system of internal control on what the information you get from the suppliers. Once we start putting pressure on the suppliers to make better safety data sheets, then they will work. And then, of course, there's the regulation. We expect like DOSH to be involved and to take to task suppliers who don't do their work properly. Looks like many suppliers just include SDS for compliance. That is very true. I totally agree with you, and that's why they don't care. That's why they just send the same safety data sheet which they receive from the Chinese company without doing anything in it. They just require to give a safety data sheet, and that's what they do. From your experience, do Kenya manufacturers have SDS or all of their for all their chemicals? I'm not sure about that. I can say if they do, or I can say if they don't. But I've seen a number of safety data sheets which are compiled by Kenyan companies, and I've seen some companies have several safety data sheets. So if they have for all products or not, that I don't know. But I know they do. Most times, searching of this SDS is done online, and people get information from chemicals of similar names. Yeah, this is a problem. Also, those who are compiling safety data sheets will look for another safety data sheet online, get it from somewhere, put their information, put their name on top of it, and then supply it. But it doesn't make it a good supplies. That's plagiarism. Somebody can be taken to court for copyright or for safety data sheets have no copyright, but for using other people's information without permission, something like that. So yeah, another question. If a supplier provides the SDS of a particular chemical, must they provide another SDS when they supply the same chemical another time or previous SDS? They can still you can still use the same SDS, but if you receive a product for 5 years ago and then you order the same product again, maybe you should get a new safety data sheet, because regulations change, and other factors relevant like exposure values, they change over time, and the safety data sheets have to be changed also and updated. So if you ordered chemicals for a long time, 2 years, something like that, the regulations are very dynamic. They change quite often. So if you received chemicals from a supplier for 2 years ago and then you receive same chemicals, it's better to get a new safety data sheet. Probably you'll get an updated safety data sheet. Okay, how do you manage chemical resulting from mixture of two different chemicals with respect to SDS? Here there are two things. One, if you have two component products, you have like some adhesive and a hardener, two component product which you have to mix to get your final product. Then you should have information on the mixture in both. But if you have completely different substance which don't have anything to with each other, but you are using them at the same time, then you have to have what you call an exposure scenario. You have to consider what are the effects from this product A, and what are the effects from product B, and you have to assess. This is part of the risk assessment. You have to assess if there is synergy, or one is affecting the other, in which way can they be used at the same time or separately. But you'll not get this information in the safety data sheet, because the safety data sheet is for that product when it's used on its own, not in connection with other products. But then you have to do the risk assessment yourself and assess how you can put control measures. But you'll get control measures which apply for this product on its own, and control measure for the other products on its own. Hi, do suppliers need to update safety data sheets after any specific period of time? No, there's no specified period of time, but as I mentioned, regulations change, and things change over time. So if you have a very old safety data sheet, it's better to ask for a new one, updated one, because the information could have changed. Classification of the components. Today, you can have a component which is classified as irritant, but after maybe some more research work, somebody finds out that maybe this product is also reproduction toxic. So the safety data sheet have to be changed and updated according to the new findings, the new research. So to have a newer version of safety data sheet is it's something you should have in practice to ask for. Okay, what is the role of a regulator in ensuring compliance, especially for supply side? This should be a question DOSH should answer, but I will say that the regulator has responsibility to see that the information, the supply, first the supply happens, that those who are required to supply safety data sheets actually do that, and then since it's given in the factory and other places of work act, what is supposed to be given in safety data sheet, then the regulator should also control the safety data sheet and look if they fulfill that the requirements which are given there. So this is something which DOSH should do. From looks of things, if the information on SDS is questionable, then this is disastrous. It is. Factual information is needed in risk assessment. What should we advise DOSH? Should advise DOSH that the safety data sheets which you receive are not useful, and that there should be a systematic way of controlling, of requiring that the suppliers can provide the safety data sheets which are correct. I don't know if DOSH will listen to you, but for your own purposes, as I mentioned, it's good to pressure the suppliers to give you better safety data sheets. And if DOSH can help in that, that will be excellent. From your experience, how should employers handle the SDS? Must they be posted at a point of use? Can filling them be better? This safety data sheets are for the employers. What the employees need, they need to know about the content of the safety data sheet. They need to know about what the hazard of the product. They need to know how to protect themselves. So you can get the safety data sheet, and if you post it at the work site, that's fine. But it will be more useful if you extract the information that the workers need and put it in a way that it's more readily available to them. Because as we see, the safety data sheets can be very complex and difficult to understand. So you can maybe make it a little bit easier. You make it instead of if you have a safety data sheet which is on 5 pages, maybe you create a smaller version and have work instructions which are on 1 page. Then, but you extract, you have to use this information. And when you're doing your training, then you inform those you are training, your trainees, on the safety data sheets and what is used for, so that they know about the safety data sheets. But for them, those who are working, you can have a shorter version that will work just as fine. Which bodies are in charge of ensuring suppliers give correct and quality SDS? I would guess this is DOSH. I will guess some pesticide control board could be such an organization which can do such a task. But regulatory, this fall on DOSH. Okay, private message. Okay. Are there any other questions? Because we've come to the last question in the chat. So as I mentioned, and this presentation is also recorded and it will be put on our web pages. so that those who are interested can use it, can send the link to others who are not here who might be interested, and the presentation also will be made available. So if we don't have any other questions, and I give the word back to Mr. Imran Said, our host, to give us the final words. Thank you again for attending and for the good questions, very good questions, very thought of questions. So I hope we get the essence of what it means to have these safety data sheets and what we can do to get them better. So Imran.
Okay, thank you once again, Abdulqadir, for taking your time to teach us. Thank you for that very eloquent presentation. I may not be OSH based, I'm more on the tech side, but I think I have learned so much today. And I thank you very much for that. And once again, thank you to all our guests. Thank you for taking this particular time in the day to join us. I just implore you all to keep up the spirit, keep up the hunger for knowledge, keep sharing, keep learning. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you all. Thank you once again.
Okay. Have a nice evening, everybody, and we hope to see you again in our next webinar in good time about when it will be. Thank you and have a nice evening.